Okay, it's 6:45. I don't want to hold anybody up any longer. And so we will begin. This is the Land Use Committee public hearing and committee meeting. And this is, it's September 3rd, 2020. Marie, do you want to do the roll call?
Yes, yes, I'll do the roll call. You ready?
Thank you. Yes.
Del Teague.
Here.
And everyone understand that they have to turn your microphone on. Okay.
Oh, did you hear me?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I'm sorry, someone's calling. Can I just
Sure,
put you on
we
hold
can
for a
wait.
second?
It's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, that was Rabbi Needham. He was having trouble getting in, so we'll see if he appears. But I'll finish the roll call. Maria Vieira. Trina McKeeva.
Here.
Okay. Gina Barros. Stephen Chesler.
Here.
Erin Drinkwater. Moise Indig. Bozena Kaminsky. Avram Katz. Abraham Lobovich. Sante Michelli.
Yes.
Okay. Rabbi Needham. Okay, yes. Karen Nieves. Isaac Sofa. Robert Solano. Okay.
Wait, I know he's here.
I see him. Mr. Weiberg. Mr. Vega.
Vega's here also.
But I can't hear him.
I know, I didn't hear anything either. I don't know if he knows to unmute his mic.
And Rabbi is on too.
I don't see him.
I don't see Vega.
Oh, okay. I see him, but there's no. He doesn't have his speaker on or something.
I can see some people are here. They just are not video connected, and probably they walk away, but they are connected.
Who do you see, Sante?
Simon Weiser, Abby Lee.
Well, I didn't get to him yet, to Weiser. So.
Okay, so Weiser we didn't get to yet, but what about Vega?
Then I see David Niederman.
Yeah,
Okay.
I see him.
I don't see the video, but appear that
They don't answer the call. They're not here. Okay. He says he's. Keith Berger, Megan Lee,
Simon Wise, it says he can hear. Simon Wise has sent us a message that he can hear and see, but he can't talk.
he'll have to use the chat.
Okay. Yeah, he's on the chat. What about Weidberg? He's not here, Stephen?
No.
And do we have Rabbi Niederman as
Yes, he's
present?
he's present, but I'm not seeing him connected.
And Vega? I thought I saw Vega earlier, but
I did it too. And now Rob Solano, he just shut off his video.
he's here though.
Here. I'm here. Thank you, Sante.
Okay. He's here. I see.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Mr. Leibovitz says he's present, but he's not communicating. Okay, so you have.
So is Leibowitz present?
He's in the chat.
I think we'll have to have a class for all the board members on how to use these things.
Abe is here.
Good idea.
Abe, you need to take your microphone. I just took it off. Can you speak? He's showing up, but he's not answering. He can only hear, but he can't speak. All right, so we'll count him in.
So how many does that give us?
Not enough.
Is it 9 or 10?
8. I count 8.
You're not counting Vega?
Yeah, I got him checked off.
All right. Okay, 8 present.
Maybe the people that appear in the chat, maybe we should try, because they probably have the microphone off and they put their video off, but maybe we should send a message via chat, a written text, and just let them know, turn off the camera and give a sign of the presence.
You mean tell them to type in the chat that they are.
Right, to turn on the video and give a sign of the presence. You know, if they're on, but they just walk away, or they're just, looking at their phone and not aware of that, then just maybe clarify a little bit an etiquette necessary to attend the meeting.
So can you do that, Marie? Can you tell them to type in that they are present in the chat?
I will try. Right now I have to go to another computer and try to get Rabbi Niederman on. He can't connect again. So do you want to start the meeting and I'm going to try to get him on?
Okay. All right, so we will start the meeting. At the moment, we do not have a quorum. However, that means we can still have a vote. It won't be a recommendation from the quorum, but I can then present to the board that that I recommend that the board go such and such a way based on what the members of the committee said. Now, let me just start by saying this application is technically not subject to the to a ULURP to the ULURP application and to the ULURP rules. However, the city will listen to and take into consideration the recommendations from our community board. So that's why I felt that we should have a public hearing and a committee meeting so that we can then ask the full board for a vote, and we can submit our opinion to the city. Now we have two basic applications here, all in connection with the proposed mixed-use development at the site of 416-420 Kent Avenue. The first application is for authorization to modify the location, the area, and the minimum dimensions of the shore public walkway, and also affecting the rear yards and the front yards. And the second application is for authorization to modify the planting and screening requirements. So let's get started with the presentation. I understand Richard Lobel will be the main presenter.
That's correct. Richard Lobel from Sheldon Lobel. David Rosenberg in my office will be sharing his screen and will run through the latter portion of the presentation.
If possible, if the host can authorize me to share content. I know it's not set for me to allow sharing.
I couldn't understand what you just said.
So the host needs to authorize me to share my screen on this. And right now that's not enabled for me.
That's Marie.
Marie is the host.
It looks like they stepped out.
She did. She said she was going to try to help Rabbi Niederman get in.
So we need Marie in order to share the materials. Del, if you want me to start on just a summary of the application, I can do that.
I'm having trouble understanding. Oh, Marie, I think Marie, there was some issue before starting and they needed your
I'm sorry.
authorization.
What is it that you need?
Yeah, Marie, we'd like you to allow David to share his screen.
Okay. Give me a second.
There's also a suggestion that everyone who's not speaking mute themselves.
Yes, that might help.
David, do you have the controls on the bottom to upload? It says share content.
Yeah, the share content is currently disabled for me. It's there, but it's disabled.
I don't understand why. Uh,
Okay.
the only other thing I can do is probably share you as the host. For some reason, it's not clicking on.
All right. I think that can work.
See if I can find you again. Is
Yeah,
any of that working?
now it's working.
It's working now? Okay.
Excellent. So without any further ado, I'll begin. Again, Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel. And I'm joined by David Rosenberg of my office, Alan Juba, the landscape architect, and Dave Spencer, the developer and owner of the property. So we have 416 to 420 10th Avenue, which is here for a zoning certification and authorization. Next slide. David?
Yeah, it's so I'm showing it as the second slide. Is it not coming up?
I don't see the second slide. Do other people see the second slide?
No,
I do not see the second slide.
Okay.
Slide.
David, should I attempt to share my content?
Yeah, see if you can.
I can scroll in all the other slides.
So everyone can can move through it, but they're not watching. Okay.
Okay. David, can you see my screen?
I cannot. It might be easier. My understanding is that everyone who's a panelist can navigate through the file and go page by page.
Okay, we should do it that way then.
Okay, so how can we do that?
Now, on the screen, on the left side of the bar, there's a little, there are arrows that can allow you to go page to page.
Okay, I see that. I got it. So why don't you tell us then which page we should go to?
Richard, you're on the second slide, development summary.
Wait, I have a question though, since this is a public hearing. I think that aren't the attendees also entitled to see the pictures? Marie?
Now, it says
I think they
development
have the same
summary.
controls as we do.
I see it now,
Okay.
development summary.
Okay.
Okay. So again, have a certification application for the property at 416 to 420 Kent Avenue. This property was previously before the community board for a phasing authorization back in 2018. It was approved by the community board. And the result of the application and all the development to date has been the development of the north and south towers at the site, which produced roughly 857 units of housing, including 187 units of affordable housing, including 33 units of housing for homeless families and individuals. And all these units, the affordable units, have been leased through St. Nick's and Reside, New York. In addition, there's commercial ground floor use of 15,867 square feet. If you've been to the site, you may know this is the Seawolf Restaurant, which opened in summer 2020, as well as the waterfront public access area of roughly 31,000 square feet. Importantly, and important to note in the life of this project, the square footage provided for the waterfront public access area is more than 6,000 square feet than was required in the initial outset. So when this building was initially built and construction began back in about 5 or 6 years ago, all that was required, this was an as-of-right project, was that they comply with visual corridor guidelines, which they do, and that they provide a waterfront public access area of roughly 25,000 square feet. The applicant here produced a waterfront public access area of over 31,000 square feet, which, as people have been to the site, can attest to, is widely used and enjoyed by local residents. So while the application has some complexities, there's many sections and subsections cited, I will tell you that most of this application before the community board right now boils down to the one main point, which is that when construction began, there was a bulkhead which was failing on the site. And so the applicant, pursuant to environmental guidelines, was going to demolish and then rebuild the bulkhead. Upon consultation with DEC, state DEC, and there were frequent conversations and discussion, it was DEC's preference that the bulkhead be capped so as to avoid the erosion and putting of materials into the surrounding East River that could have deteriorated from the site and may have carried contamination. So the applicant was happy to do that. They were also happy to, for a certain waterfront cove along the site, they were happy to encroach into the waterfront public access area in order to fully protect the waterfront cove. In doing this, in capping the bulkhead and in protecting the waterfront cove, they essentially affected the site plan as it had been approved by city planning in its prior approvals. So they were complying with state agencies and they were actually doing environmentally what was more than was required. However, because they capped the bulkhead and they provided for this additional buffer for the waterfront cove, the 40-foot access area for the waterfront public access was decreased by 14 inches. and certain areas of planting in other areas, as will be discussed by David, were decreased. So as city planning has recently stated, they found that the applicant was being overly compliant with state regulations, and so had to come back and adjust the site plan and approvals accordingly. And so we find ourselves here before the community board for these approvals. Nothing changes from the existing site as you see it now, as you walk through it now, but because the plans don't reflect what those approvals were, because they did take these environmental actions, we're now before the community board and before the commission. David, I think if you want to, I don't know if you're able to forward the slide or if we do that together.
Yeah, everyone can, using the arrow keys on their keyboard or using the on-screen controls.
I have a question. What did you say that the city planning found?
So at the recent presentation to city planning, which was on August 17th, they ran this through the commission. There was not a substantive hearing on the merits, but it was presented to the commission prior to referral to the community board. And city planning, the chair stated, the chair and importantly the staff members on the record stated that it was apparent that these changes were a result of compliance with DEC guidelines. So really, sadly, I think, because this is really a successful waterfront public access area, because of our ability to help DEC and to make for an environmentally secure site, we've now been put through a process which has taken about a year and a lot of effort to change the plans on record with city planning, and that's why we're in front of the community board.
Thank you.
Sure. So, David, I think if you want to just go forward with the remainder of the application, primarily it's dealing with a lot of the adjustments in the numbers, and then Elliot and Alan are both available to answer any questions about the development. So, David, you can proceed.
Okay, starting on page 5 of this, and I apologize for the technical difficulties here. Please bear with me. One of the actions requested here is a certification by the chair for visual corridors. This is just to certify that the visual corridor prolonging from South 8th Street is preserved for 60 feet across the entire length of the property, extending out to the water. And you can see that here. Moving forward, we can talk about, with all of this, with the bulkhead moving, it changes a lot of dimensions. If you think of this as the layout of the site, everything that you have over here is either going to be private property, shore public walkway, supplemental public access, or upland connections. And depending on where the shoreline is, that starts defining what everything else is. In gray at the top, you see the ranges between 2.5 to a little less than 4 feet over across the new bulkhead that projects out beyond the property line. And then below that is the existing shore public walkway, which is a couple of 100 square feet smaller now across, since this came before this community board in 2018 as a result of this little gray piece not being part of the shore public walkway. The blue areas below it, moving horizontally, are new public access areas, which were formerly part of the shore public walkway in the last set, but because some things moved a little bit further out, are now designated supplemental public access areas. And all the blue that you see heading perpendicular down the screen, those are areas that are currently private property and are proposed by the applicant to be designated as additional public access space. And as a practical matter, it remains the same. The plantings stay as they are, but the designation as public access requires the developer to maintain them in accordance with the rest of this public area and ensures that they can't later be co-opted for private use. With this, in total, we're adding approximately 5,221 square feet of additional public access area to the site. Heading to the next slide, taking each of the modifications side by side to see what the prior approval was and what needs to be changed and why things need to be waived. On the left, you can see the original certification from city planning approving the site, showing a kind of rounded cove by the wetlands. When this came for construction, the DEC preferred a different design to protect the wetlands, which has a little bit more of a, juts in a little bit farther, has a little bit starker edges. And the 40-foot measurement of the shore public walkway and also the required waterfront yard extended from the end of the building, which you can see the end of the blue line, 40 feet up to the end. It's a little hard to track because the change in the way that the plans are color coded in different years, the gray extends, but it's the same building, same footprint shown to scale. And what you see here is that with the new configuration of the bulkhead, you end up with the shortest distance of this waterfront yard and the shore public walkway being approximately 38 feet and 10 inches. And that requires one of the authorizations. Moving to the next one, in the transition area. This is the area located kind of in the middle, right behind the larger circular driveway, for those who are familiar with the site. In 2016, the fire department...
So what page are we on, please?
We're on page 8.
Thank you.
In 2016, the fire department requested certain changes to the transition area to have better access for emergency vehicles towards the back of the site in the shore public walkway. And that ended up in a reduction of the planting area from what was then about 1,000 square feet of planting to 643 square feet of planting shown on the left. The requirement under zoning here is to have 40% of this area planted, which amounts to 768 square feet. As part of these actions, which still require a modification because modification was never formalized through city planning, the proposal is to increase some, and you can see here where the additional planting comes in amounts to a net increase in planting at 671 square feet, or 673, but is still less than the required 768. Moving to the next sheet.
So wait, I'm sorry. So you're required to have 768,
Yes.
and it will be decreased to...
So it will be increased from the current build, but decreased from the requirement to 671.
Okay, thank you.
Moving to the next sheet, page 9, for the upland connection planting comparison. And as I'd mentioned in the beginning, everything that you see is going to be some category of property. Either if it's not shore public walkway, it's going to be supplemental access, or it's going to be upland connection. Here you can see the red line running across, which is the upland boundary of the shore public walkway, was moved substantially between 2016 on the left and the as-built condition on the right.
Hello.
And when that happened, it reduced the size of the upland connection. You can see it was reduced from 6,300 square feet to 5,836 square feet. The planting requirement now is 40%, which amounts to 2,334 square feet of planting required. Here, the changes moving some of the planted area from the upland connection into the shore public walkway, and then also the proposed change to the lawn area that I'll discuss a couple of slides down, has the net effect of reducing the planting to 2,138 square feet, which is just slightly below what the required planting is, about 196 square feet short.
What was the required planting there? 2,000, how many?
2,334.
Okay.
Moving to the next slide on the lawn area comparison.
I have a fast question. So you said the blue dashed line, is that a terrace that is over protruding out?
No, these blue dashed lines delineate the areas of this area that are now public, that weren't previously public access areas, that are now public access areas. So though you can see the planting is there on either side, both in 2016 and as proposed, there was no requirement unless without this application, there's no requirement that these plantings stay the way they are, and they can be converted to any kind of private use or amenity for the building. Under the proposal, these places would be designated as public access area and have to stay in accordance with this site plan and maintained.
So are you saying that you're decreasing plantings, but you're increasing the public access areas?
Yes.
Why do you need to do this?
So when you look at where the planting comes out, and the big thing, and when I talk about the lawn on the next page, it's going to require us to take out a bit of the required planting. Because you go down, I think it's to page 10, you can see that the lawn has more or less been a victim of its own success and requires it has a lot of foot traffic, a lot of dog traffic. And so Parks and the Department of City Planning and the developer thought that the people have spoken and this area needs to be retooled a little bit to allow for more active use. That takes out some of the planting and replaces it with gravel and new seeding. It also brings down the planting to just a little bit under what the requirements under zoning.
So reducing maintenance practically, reducing the amount of planting. Also a question, I can see on the prior approval, where that block, there were that asphalt tile, and now is, what is it now?
Yeah.
I see that.
This is one of the, and Alan can speak to this as well, but this comes to one of the the differences in the form that the plans were put together in the 2 years. In 2016, the materials plans were embedded into the site plan. In 2019, 2020, we don't. At the end of this, you can see that we included the full site plan for this that shows the legend, and you can see what the materiality is, and it's the same paver. I believe, Alan, it is a paving material.
Yes, yes, that's correct, David. They are precast concrete pavers. It's the same material. It's just not shown on the plan on the right.
And so then segueing into the lawn area discussion, you can see on the next page, page 10, lawn area comparison, the difference between what is the existing condition, where you have this large area of grass that's open and lends itself to passive recreation, and then on the right, where you can see that the grass, and on the legend in the back, you can see what the materials is. It's a kind of stabilized gravel here that allows for more active pedestrian and animal crossing, and allows for additional seating to be put throughout. And obviously this planting requires a modification to the site plan and also gives us the slight deficiency in the planting of the upland connection. In total, to put in the gravel, we removed 251 square feet of planting in the upland connection, which puts us short of the 100, which amounts to the 196 square feet that we're short.
So I have a question. Are you saying that the city suggested that you not leave the area with just grass and that you put in the gravel so that there would be a more active use of the area?
Yeah, the Parks Department raised the issue here in, at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, that the grass was getting destroyed just from active use. And you can see on the picture on the next page what the grass looks like. And so in discussions, Parks had some ideas about possibly replacing it with different types of synthetic material. The Department of City Planning had some other concerns with that, and so everyone worked together and thought that clearly this needs a little bit more active programming, and everyone thought that stabilized gravel and additional seating would make for a good fit based on the actual use of the Esplanade. And you can see on page 11 the condition of the lawn. I believe these pictures were from last winter.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, what are we talking about with more active use? What kind of use are you talking about?
That people walk through there. It's not a kind of pathway that people walk around and just sit and take in the scenery as much as they go onto it. They use it, the dogs go on it. And it ends up that kind of grass just doesn't hold up to the kind of foot traffic that we've seen at the Esplanade.
And what did they think about the synthetic grass?
So, Department of City Planning staff raised some concerns that, in addition to getting very hot during the summer with a lot of sunlight, the synthetic materials don't react very well to dog waste, and it would end up smelling pretty bad very quickly.
I just have a quick question about that current lawn. Has it been watered? Has it been watered?
Yeah, Alan can speak more to the maintenance, but they're regularly watered. It's torn out.
Indeed, whatever maintenance was required to maintain this as long was happening. There is an irrigation system as part of the project, but because of the large use of people walking through here and bringing their dogs through here, even with that level of maintenance, it resulted in the lawn getting worn out, as you can see in the photos on page 11.
Yeah, well, the reason I bring that up is that we have similar problem areas in Transmitter Park and Bushwick Inlet Park. And once we got a lot of rain, a lot of the grass grew back. There's still some bald patches. So just wondering, the issue, the way the grass was planted, and I mean, there's another level of maintenance in terms of fertilizer or what have you. That
this is Elliot Spitzer. If I could just chime in, everybody who's doing the presentation is being extraordinarily polite and not trying to describe the real the problem. They've described it accurately. It was a very small area of grass relative to the number of dogs that were being walked there. And after much consultation with all the various environmental agencies, what's been proposed is their best thinking. But to your point, and I appreciate your suggestion, absolutely no amount of maintenance, watering, watered unfortunately the wrong way many times every day by our friendly pets. No amount of maintenance could keep it looking right. And it was frankly becoming an eyesore. And otherwise, I know I'm a partisan here, but otherwise it's a really beautiful Esplanade. So this is the best effort to kind of bring it up to the rest of the Esplanade.
All right. Moving to page 12, one of the other modifications that we need here is a waiver of required screening between public and public areas and non-public areas. And here, as you can see on the left, the idea here was that you would have entrances to two different commercial establishments on the building, entering and from the Shore Public Walkway. Both of those commercial entrances are exempt from the screening buffer requirement. That's why not provided. When this came around last time for the phasing authorization in 2018, there was a lot of discussion about how instead of putting the commercial uses inside the building, where retail traffic isn't so great, and also not to isolate this corner of the walkway, that everyone looked at this and said that this might be a great place for some outdoor dining. And what that does is not only open everything up a little bit more, but it puts more people in the Shore Public Walkway, especially now, but even before this. And so that one commercial entrance was closed off, but the pathway stayed so people can reach that commercial establishment from all sides and get to the active use. And because there's no screening buffer in that one corner, kind of where you see the dimension 10 foot 8 inches, we require a waiver of those screening requirements. It's a matter of, restaurant is part of this, but in reality, just as a matter of making a better Esplanade, we think that there's a better pedestrian experience for the public walking by when there are more people around and more people being able to see it and more activity around this area than if this were entirely buffered up by densely planted trees and shrubs, where we just kind of have this isolated corner that doesn't get a lot of light, doesn't get a lot of activity, and just would be a dead zone. And so we're proposing a waiver of that screening buffer requirement to allow these uses. And that's that. On page 13, you can see different pictures of the site. Here in this one on page 13, you can see the area on the far left where the fence is the couple of extra feet of the new capped bulkhead that prolong out a little farther. I'm not going to spend too much time going through these, but you can look at the rendering on page 15 that shows a little bit better of how the not having the screen buffer makes for just a better experience on the waterfront. And I'd also just point to slide 19, where you can really see just how minuscule the required change in the width of the public walkway is. Here you can see, and in fact, actually slide 21 probably shows this better. You can see the corner of the overhang above the first floor of the building. And if you took a straight line from that corner to the corner of the fence at the water's edge, that is 14 inches shorter than what zoning requires. And that was a necessary result of having to protect those limits. And so with that, I think we're all happy to take any questions about the project or the action.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Thank you for the presentation. Can you clarify which modifications have already been implemented and which are proposed? Obviously, the lawn I see is something that's proposed, but it looks like the other things that have already been are part of the completed construction. Or, correct me wrong.
That is correct. The change to the lawn area is the only piece of this that is new construction. Everything else is really just technical waivers, various building provisions to reflect the as-built condition because we were boxed in by the wetlands.
So given what DEC put in front of you in terms of what their recommendations or requirements, so I understand then I guess there was a gap, or somehow there was a breakdown in terms of communicating what changes were needed with city planning, and then the construction happened, and after the fact, we came to city planning with some of these other modifications, it came out that they had done some of these modifications without getting their approval. Is that kind of a,
So the regulations here, it's included in the document, in the agreement signed with the Sheriff's Department to do this, as well as the restrictive declaration entered into with the City Planning Commission as part of the phasing authorization, recognizes that the bulkhead lines and the wetlands and any construction around them has to be done at the direction of state DEC. Language is there, it's a recorded document, and that the plans need to be modified to comply with those requirements. Usually, in most cases, those modifications come about as a matter of certification, because you don't, if you're not creating new non-compliances by the modification for the bulkhead, if it's just a different site plan referenced in recorded documents, then it can be done administratively. In this case, the changes required by DEC, which were done pursuant to law and pursuant to regulation, need to be done, created new non-compliances for zoning purposes. And so now we need to change it, and this is kind of a housekeeping action. There's a review process, it's a long process, we've been at this a while, but on the whole, it's very complex housekeeping.
yeah, just, it worries me a little bit because it just feel like it just kind of opens a window, it sets a little bit of precedent that, another project could just kind of modify their plans to meet, whatever, and then kind of after the fact, you say, oh yeah, we need to get approval on what we're doing after we constructed it. And, what if something's seriously kind of out of whack, But
Steve,
then, and then we're forced in a position to, because you've already done the work and, et cetera, et cetera.
can I add one other factor which David and Richard have articulated, but they'll correct me if I'm wrong in any respect, obviously. The changes that were made to the bulkhead by building the sheeting outside the existing sheeting was done pursuant to what is, I think, a 20-page agreement with the DEC that was also signed off on by multiple other city agencies. In other words, it was signed off by SBS, council was on notice and reviewed it. And so this was done with the participation of all the city agencies that have oversight over these particular areas. And it was done with state and city regulatory authorization, permission, and pursuant to a very long, complicated agreement. Planning is now coming back, as was said, clean up the particular zoning aspect of it was not changed in that agreement, but the city agencies involved that had jurisdiction over it, all were part of that negotiation.
So, Del here. So essentially, it was done without involving the community board. And so once again, we are in a position of being asked to actually give an opinion, give our approval without having had the courtesy of being informed that this was going on. At least that's how I see it. Correct me, please, if I'm wrong.
Well, I would just chime in, Del. It's the original certification, the waterfront certification, was an action which set the site plan and was done merely by application to the chair of city planning and the commission. So that action didn't go through the community boards, as none of them would, the original waterfront certification. The subsequent phasing authorization, which was merely to allow for the opening of the Shore Public Walkway in December 2018 instead of 2019, did come through the community board. So we, I understand that we end up in this position, and we do end up with zoning noncompliances. But like as a technical matter, when the first approval came through, it didn't come through the community board. And honestly, like having been before the community board, as you know, many times, we really, I think we're put in a position by DEC and by city planning where everyone in the agencies knew what was going on. And indeed, SBS wrote letters to city planning, which we presented to them saying, that, this is being done on our behalf. And then eventually city planning was like, well, wait a minute, you need to come back to us. So, we understand the sensitivity in this regard, but had we not complied with DEC regulations, we never would have needed to come back. In fact, particularly with regards to the lawn and the graveled area, this was something where if we decided to keep the existing dirt there, we literally would not have to do anything. We could just keep the existing dirt, which was supposed to be grass, and maintain it. And we wouldn't even need a new approval for that. But because we are going in at the request of parks and city planning to try to make it better, that's a portion of the approval we're required to do. And it actually, despite the fact that we're trying to be good guys here, makes it much more difficult for us.
So I have a question, and it's just kind of a basic question, if not for now, for other times or the future. Was there can you think of any way that the community board could at least have been put on notice that this was going to be done, so that we might even have had someone look into it or just be apprised of what was going on, so that you were not coming back to us essentially saying, guys, it's done already, everybody's okay with it, but we do have to come and get your opinion, which may or may not be paid any attention to.
Yeah, I think when DEC, and again, Elliot probably understated the amount of negotiation and discussion. I mean, we've got just, our hours and hours of conversation, documents going back and forth. But when DEC made that initial pronouncement where they were requiring us to cap the bulkhead and to further protect that wetland area by encroaching into the waterfront public access area, if they, at that time of their initial approval, had notified all of the affected parties, community board, city planning, and such, then I think maybe that would be the key here. I would also add, Del, that part of the difficulty is ironic again, not only with the grassy area that we're required to, that we could just leave as is without any approval, but part of this was also required in order to allow the waterfront public access area to meet up with Schaefer Landing's waterfront public access area. So as was approved and as would have been required after the additional bulkhead, it would have been a jagged edge. It wouldn't have been uniform. And so again, some of the approvals that were required were to make that uniform. So again, understanding the sensitivity, I think you're right. And I think that, if DEC was basically on notice that those type of approvals should be run through the community board, particularly, that probably would prevent this from happening in the future. I think we just here on this one, we're put in a tough position.
So I would propose to the committee, no matter what we decide tonight, that we recommend that we notify DEC and ask that in the future we be notified of these kinds of changes that they are mandating, so that we are at least a part of, we're participants in, and apprised of these things, so that so that applicants don't have to come back to the community board saying, well, it's been done, and sorry, and we don't really need to be in this kind of a position. We're not unreasonable, I don't think, although I'm sure sometimes you find us to be unreasonable. But I think that even just for the fact that if you want the community board to really have an open sense toward you, or have a sense that something's not being put over on us, it's a better way to approach things. I think down the road it would make life a lot easier for developers. It's just a thought, and I'll talk to the community, to my committee members about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Del, and we're in complete agreement with that.
Okay.
I don't mean to hog, but if I have another question about the design. First of all, I just want to compliment you. I think the layout of this this public access area is really nice with the curves. It adheres to the design guidelines, I guess, were passed in 2009. So, and that said, where the grassy area, the little hill is really nice with the benches built into it. I'm just wondering with the new, if going to gravel, will the hill be flattened out?
No. Well, first of all, thank you, Steve, for your compliments about the design. That hill remains, and the seating on the one side of the hill, the south side of it, will remain as well. The gravel is just going to occupy the flatter part of this area. The hilly area stays as that topography, but it gets a new type of planting on it, such as perennials and grasses, things of that nature.
It's very nice.
Thank you.
Del, can I just chime in again from
Absolutely. Sure.
wearing my current incarnation hat as the developer here, and having in my prior life grown sensitive to various levels of government being concerned about being ignored when their input would be useful. So I totally understand and agree with the position you're taking. From our perspective, where we end up now is the result, as I think both Richard and David have articulated, remarkably long and not difficult negotiations, always very cordial, and we got to the result everybody wanted, but complicated negotiations relating to the construction and the best environmental manner in which the bulkhead could be constructed and the wetlands and the cove built to preserve the wetlands area. So this was by no means on our part in any way either an effort or did we fail to deal with multiple levels of government at the state and local level whose specific jurisdiction related to the waterfront. And I think that's clear in both the complexity of the documentation surrounding this and frankly in the difficulty of the construction, where since you live in the community, you remember the barges, the dewatering process. This was not an easy construction project. And Steve, I again appreciate your kind words about the final result. I think it is aesthetically more than satisfying. It's, again, as pride of ownership, perhaps I think it's beautiful. I think the public enjoys it and what we've created and care about, and hence the effort to make sure that the grass is well maintained and come up with the right answer here is an effort to build something that everybody will enjoy and be proud of.
Yeah, I personally, for myself, I really think it's a beautiful design, and I don't mean to impart any bad motivation on your part or any attempt to do something behind our back. But I think that in general, I think that we, as the community board, should make it clear to the government, whichever entities are involved, that they're much better off, and the applicants are much better off when we're kept apprised, and so that you don't come to us with the disadvantaged by the fact that you have to essentially say, yeah, it's been done already, and now we come and ask your opinion. I mean, I think I'm beating a dead horse here because you've already agreed. So thank you.
Well, I think to refer to the community board's input as housekeeping. It's which is what you said in essence, bringing this to us or bringing not the long part, which hasn't been done. I mean, it would be good not to be able to have real input and not just to do that, finish up the housekeeping.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's a good way of expressing it, Trina. It's essentially certainly not complimentary to us.
So I had two comments, if I can go, Del.
Sure.
The one thing I wanted to mention was at the beginning slide, I was happy to see
that you use the, say, Knicks Alliance to do the affordable housing marketing, which is an important part to when these developments go up on the waterfront, that local groups are able to engage the community. So just anytime there's development of affordable housing, I like to see that. And two, it has been a well-received waterfront in the Latino community. It is very difficult and challenging sometimes to feel safe to go to a waterfront. And you all have done a good job in making that a welcoming area for all the communities, but specifically, I know a lot of families that go into that area.
Thank you.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Again, I hate to jump in, but I would just point out, and these numbers were at the top, of the 187 affordable units, we have leases signed, and virtually every one of them is occupied at this point. So which is something we're proud of. It's not an easy process, and it's a fair bit of effort, but we're proud of the fact that we've done that. And I think the number is 33 of the 187 also are homeless families and individuals, which is, obviously an issue that's important to the city and to all of us who live here.
So are we ready to take a vote on this? Let me see if anyone else has anything they want to say before I put this up for a vote.
Can I make a last comment, please? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear? Yes. Sorry, I wasn't sure. I want to say that thank you again. It's a nice design. I believe one of the problem, unfortunately, you are caught on the middle, is that the community has been advocating for a long time, and this is a particular relation the community sometimes had with the Parks Department, which has been kind of without consulting the community, trying to push for the elimination of a natural element like the grass and the lawn, which the community has believed and has battled many times in different areas, has been battling for slope down and to avoid many times the bulkheads. And so this is a very sensitive area, and as Steve has mentioned before, when he mentioned the president, I believe it symbolized something. Every time a little spit of grass goes away, we take away that so means nature. I know it doesn't mean much, but look at this time, all this lockdown, how much is needed natural grass and not gravel and not tiles. We're already very large structure. Already the built fabric is about glass, is about concrete. And sometimes it's been very easy for the Parks Department because it reduced cost of maintenance. And as Steve has mentioned, it really needs exceptional attention. It needs definitely water. I know there is a lot of people and need to enforce sometimes certain rules to make sure that that little piece of grass can be used specifically for a certain use, maybe to lie down and maybe not to use it as a dog run, which we have issue because we lack in dog runs too. So we understand that, but we can't just that easily give away this idea of trying to claiming a natural element in our waterfront. That's the only comment I have to make.
So Santi, normally I would very much agree with you because I fight the nail not to give up an inch of grass, but it kind of looks to me like the way this design is, I don't know how practical it would be to tell people they cannot have dogs on this whole area. So,
well, that has been actually, we did so many battle and many times, we have to really use exceptional force to have recognized many things in our water from Williamsburg to Greenpoint. And I believe sometimes that's the resistance that is needed. It's very easy to say. We've been seeing that many times. Why we didn't have a slope down? Why we didn't have a get down at a park? there was always reason why it wasn't possible until the community has come very strongly with certain idea and certain vision, and then all of a sudden it was possible. And grass is a symbol of the nature. And I know it is nothing, it's a little speed, but my question is, do we really want to give away the fast, or maybe there is a way to put some extra attention and trying to maintain it? That's all.
Santaken, I agree with you both emotionally and did in my prior life as much as possible across the state to preserve parks, to fund them, to maintain them, to build them. I can tell you that there was no way, and you used the word exceptional force, there was absolutely no way to preserve this reasonably small piece of grass from its becoming a place where literally hundreds of dogs were being walked every day. And it was becoming something I just don't want to describe. And it was not for lack of effort, not for lack of caring, not for lack of signage, fences. Every possible impediment was put there to preserve it from that result, but it simply wasn't possible.
Then we should turn it into a little dog run. Maybe it has more, and maybe it's a needed use for the community.
Yeah, we do need more dog runs. That is true.
I mean, even in your building, I believe there is people that have dogs, and there are no dog runs. Maybe that may not be a bad use, but again.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that you'd have a lot of resentment from non-dog owners if you just took it away from the public completely and just use it as a dog run. So anyway, anybody else have anything else they want to raise before we have a vote?
Dell? Rob Solano had his hand raised. Does he still want
Oh, I'm
to
done.
speak?
Let me lower the hand. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, so then, Marie, do we have to do anything officially to actually adjourn the public hearing and have the vote by the committee?
Yes, you can end this portion of the public hearing. I understand the item's coming back to the board on Tuesday to do a presentation again.
That's right. So this is the end of the public hearing, and then we can move on to a vote. Does anybody have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second, any second?
I'll second it.
Okay, let me copy this down. Rob, approve. Steve, second. All right, then I guess we need a roll call for a vote. The vote would be to approve the application. So,
Dale Teague?
yes.
Oh, let's make the motion. Let's just state the motion.
Okay. Rob made the motion to approve, and Steve seconded it.
I'm sorry. I thought it was to close this portion of the hearing.
Oh,
Okay, I make the motion to close this portion of the meeting.
I second.
okay. Now, does anyone make a motion on the application
Yes, I make a motion on the application.
to
Do you
approve?
want to include,
To approve.
do we want to include the language about being asked sooner in the process going forward? Or is that a separate comment that we add to our motion?
I was going to suggest that we make it as a second comment, but I don't know if it matters.
Yeah, I think it's it's like a process with the city that we
Yeah.
should highlight to them on all projects.
I agree. All right, so Rob moves to approve. Steve, are you seconding?
I second.
Okay, so let's have a roll call on that.
Dale Teague?
Yes.
Maria Vieira? Karina McKeever,
Yes.
Gina Barros, not present. Stephen Chesler,
Yes.
Erin Drinkwater, Erin Drinkwater,
Yes.
Moish Indig, Moish Indig, Bozena Kaminsky, not present. Avram Katz, not present. Abraham Leibovitz, Abraham, do you want to put it in the chat because we can't hear you? No answer. Sante Michelli,
No.
Rabbi Niederman, Karen Nieves, Isaac Sofa,
Yes.
Rob Solano, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Stephen Weidberg, not present. William Vega, Mr. Vega, Simon Weiser, Simon, Keith Berger, Megan Lee. I have 6 yes, 1 no.
Okay. So the motion carries, and I will recommend to the community board that the application be approved.
Bill, you're muted.
Bill, you want me to unmute you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Motion carries. I need a class in this. A motion carries. I'll recommend to the community board that the application be approved. And the next thing so that's, I guess, all we need from the applicant at this point. And I want to thank you guys. And I think you actually did get a lot of positive feedback from us. So keep up the good work.
Thank you all very much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
It's enormously.
Thanks, Tal.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. And then for the committee members, shall I also recommend that we contact the city and the state agencies and strongly request that we be apprised of changes and recommendations by the different agencies to applications that we've approved, so that when they come back to us again, we are not viewed as just housekeeping, but we will have been at least apprised of what was going on,
Yeah, I'd say especially city planning.
especially city planning. Yes. So I guess really we should have a vote on that, and then we can adjourn for the
second
night. Okay, great.
Also make a motion.
Yeah, that was my motion. Or unless you want to make them,
Okay, I'll second it.
okay, okay. So, one more roll call, Marie?
Yep. Del Teague,
Yes.
Maria Vieira, not present. Trina McKeever,
Yes,
Gina Barros, not present. Stephen Chesler,
Yes.
Erin Drinkwater. Erin, I see you, but there you go. Erin, can you let us know what your position is?
Yes.
Okay. Moise Indig, not present. Bozena Kaminsky, Avram Katz, Abraham Leibovitz, Sante Michelli, Sante, Sante,
Sante,
Sante,
yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Rabbi Niederman, not present. Karen Nieves, not present. Isaac Sofa,
Yes.
okay. Robert Solano,
yes.
Stephen Weiberg, not present. William Vega, not present. Simon Weiser, Keith Berger, Megalyn Lee. You have 7 yeses.
Okay, great. Okay, can you hear me? Marie?
Yes.
Okay, so, that will, conclude our meeting, and thank you all. See you at the
Motion to
community
adjourn.
board meeting.
Thank you
Thanks.
again.
thank you, Dale.
Bye, bye.
Everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
job,
Good
Marie. Good job, Del. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Take
Good
care.
evening.
Bye-bye.